Hi, I'm Ian Berry, and thank you for joining us in a conversation. My special guest today is Phil Jesson, my friend and colleague from the UK, and you're going to love this conversation with Phil because Phil's a guru in key account management. And Phil, it all began as I understand, in the army a long time ago, and then you moved into sales and marketing, but it was the same four things that were applicable in the army as well as in sales and marketing, and that is offence, defence, alliance and deterrence. Is that right?
That's right, Ian. Yes, it was a very easy move for me because the four military strategies are exactly the same as the four sales and marketing strategies. So offence is all about attacking competitors and defence is all about hanging on to customers. So the thinking is very similar.
Yeah, indeed. And then you went into, you were head of sales and service and sales, I think, for Rentokil in the UK?
Yeah, I worked in London for Rentokil, which was my first baptism in the sales world, and then into sales management from there.
Okay, fantastic. And then you went into publishing with the German giant Bertelsmann, I think?
Yeah, the big German media company Bertelsmann were launching a range of book clubs and record companies in the UK, and I was very much part of that launch and was heading up their operation in Nottingham, if you know that part of the world, home of Robin Hood.
Yeah, indeed, I do. I've been up that way quite a few times. And then you branched into management consulting, working for a Swedish firm from memory?
Yes, a big Swedish international company called Mercury. So I ran their Birmingham office and had a team of consultants working with me on UK and also international assignments.
Oh, great. And then you went out on your own, took the plunge. How long ago?
That was 20 years ago. That was my now or never. We all have them in our career, don't we? And
indeed.
I could see the company I was working for at that time about to restructure, which made a lot of sense for them, but not for me. So that was my now or never, and self-employment beckoned.
Well, and it's a great journey. It's 24 years for me just this month, so we're about the same sort of vintage there.
Yes, absolutely.
But Phil, you've got an enormous amount of experience in key account management, which is our focus today. And I understand as well that you're coming to my country, Australia, soon.
That's right. We're planning that now, Ian, but certainly March 2016 is the target date for that, and really looking forward to it. I've been to Australia once before, loved it, and would like to come back again.
Well, March is a great time of year too because it's autumn, and so it's a fabulous time of the year. So that'll be terrific. I'm looking forward to that. So.
Yep.
Perhaps we should start our conversation in the obvious place. What's key account management?
Well, it's a range of strategies, systems, and skills for managing your most important customers. Sometimes people refer to that as their top 10. Within that top 10, of course, sometimes it means big spending customers. It can also mean customers with very large potential rather than historic spend.
Yeah.
And sometimes, of course, it can also mean smaller customers, but those that have a huge strategic or prestige value.
Yes, I see. And I mean, I know from my own experience of working with large organisations, does key account management apply just to large organisations, or is it?
No, it applies to large and small. What often happens, of course, certainly in the business-to-business sector, is that you very often get 80% of the business coming from 20% of the customers. It's that Pareto principle, and that's really the end of the customer base that I'm working with. All customers are, of course, important, but I would argue that key accounts are different, and it's the difference that needs to be managed.
Yes, indeed. And so tell us why should companies be doing it?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. I think, first of all, it's part of the evolutionary process that's been going on for 30 years or more to the role of the salesperson.
Yes.
Many years ago, salespeople were seen almost as entertainers, and then they became educators and problem solvers. I guess by the 90s, salespeople were repositioning themselves as consultants to the customer, but now I think the language is more around being seen as a partner to the customer and working in a spirit of partnership rather than being seen as a supplier. I think the other reason why companies should be doing it is that the traditional gaps between them and their competitors have narrowed. As the customer sees it today, everybody's doing the same sort of thing. So the more we can stand out from our competitors rather than just stand up to them, the better. So I help my customers create that gap, really, that blue water between them and their competitors.
Yes, I mean, differentiation is so important today, isn't it? It's like I describe differentiation as either doing what other people aren't doing, which is very hard to do,
yeah,
or it's doing what others do, just doing it better, differently, or more uniquely.
It is, and I think also, Ian, it's about making sure that people at the customer end are talking about us in their boardroom. I'll give you a couple of examples of where I've been involved with customers that have very successfully made that happen. I've done a lot of work in the UK with a major tyre manufacturer. Do people talk about tyres in the boardroom? No, but what they do talk about in the boardroom is improvements in the fleet's profitability and performance. Yes. So the tyre company that I worked with, they started to add value around the customer's fleet, not just selling them tyres. Similarly, when I did some work with a printing company in the UK, do people talk about print in the boardroom? No. But what this printing company did was starting to add value around various pieces of legislation that were happening in the UK around the environmental area, making sure that their customers were fully in the know on what they needed to do to stay the right side of the law on environmental matters. And that, of course, does get talked about in the boardroom.
Yes, indeed. So your work's really helping your clients to not only differentiate themselves in the marketplace, but it's also helping them to do so in a way that adds value for them, but also adds value for the customer.
Absolutely right. And one of the things that I often try and influence within the companies that I'm working with is the job description that they have for their salespeople. To put it simply, in today's world, I think the job description for a salesperson is one sentence, and that is simply to improve our own profitability and performance by improving the customer's profitability and performance. It's as simple as that.
I had a flash of Zig Ziglar as you were saying that, who said something along the lines that the way we get what we want is to help other people get what they want.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think one of the problems with traditional sales training is that it works. What I mean by that is it trains people to sell, but it doesn't train people to understand why the other person is likely to buy. And I think the emphasis today is more around understanding the customer's drivers at both a personal level and a commercial level, and really then working in a way that works for the customer.
So in some places, this would be called relationship management.
Yes, absolutely. Relationship management with the objective of positioning oneself as a partner, not a supplier.
We'll just go back to job descriptions for a moment. I've in my work in the leadership space, as you know, and it's interesting, almost every organisation I go into, there's job descriptions. Sometimes they're 9 and 10 pages.
Yes.
And then down the bottom it says, and anything else is directed.
Yes, exactly.
But
job descriptions, of course, and we understand why they're there. They are written by HR departments that have got an eye on employment law, but they don't actually help the salesperson understand exactly what their job is about.
No, and it seems to me that what we're really talking about here is role clarity rather than job. It's a role, and if I'm hearing you correctly, and I agree with you, the number one role is about relationships
It is.
that
Yep.
lead to value for all parties.
Yes, it's adding value, and I think in today's marketplace, after the economic problems that have taken place around the world over the last 6 or 7 years, there are really only two types of companies. You're either perceived as a cost creator, or you are perceived as a value creator.
Yes.
Cost creators, of course, get hit all of the time around price-related issues. Value creators don't get hit on that because the perception is clearly around the value that is being created by their suppliers.
Yes, I mean, this is another discussion we could have one day, but I believe that businesses that are delivering value, who live their values, and employees and customers and all stakeholders feel valued,
yeah,
that's the future of business.
It's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So no doubt you'd have a list of top tips or recommended best practice, or
yes, that's a very fair comment. A lot of the work that I do is based around top tips for managing your top customers. So I've got many of them, and I'll share half a dozen of them with you now. And please, obviously, comment as I go through. But the first thing I'll start with is that lovely saying in business that it's difficult to make improvements unless you know where you're starting from.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think is important with key accounts is that they receive a face-to-face key account audit, as I would call it, a little bit like an annual appraisal for a member of staff. But this is a face-to-face meeting carried out by a senior executive who goes along to do the obvious thing, i.e. say thank you for your business over the last year. But whilst I'm here, can I just ask you some questions to find out how you feel about what we're doing? So asking those very simple questions like, where are we meeting your expectations? Where are we exceeding your expectations? Where are we falling short? That's the starting point, really, to finding out exactly how the customer sees us today and where we can add value in the future. Are you happy with that one?
Well, I was going to say that like good leaders, they wouldn't be waiting for the appraisal. They'd be having conversations all the time. So the top key account executives would be doing that.
Yep.
What you're saying is that a senior executive of the organisation is going in to, wave the flag, but also give the customer the opportunity to give them important information for all parties.
Yes, absolutely. There is an element of flag waving and red carpet going on, but it's really a very senior executive going along saying, thank you for your business, but whilst I'm here, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And how can we help you in the future? So that key account audit, for me, is the starting point to really understand how the customer sees us today and where we can add value in the future.
Yes, indeed. So number two.
My next tip would be make the decision to become an expert in the customer's world. I make the decision to become an expert in their stuff, not your stuff. And that's really all about understanding in its simplest form, almost trying to build a one-page strategic plan for the customer in your mind. Understanding where the customer is today, where the customer is going in the future, how the customer intends to get there, and then once that journey has been mapped out, where we can add value along that journey, along that route. That's one of the things that helps my clients enormously, is to stop talking about their stuff and to start to understand the customer stuff. In particular, of course, some of those moments of pain that the customer is experiencing, because if we can understand their pain and then take it away, that is a key element of the sales process, of course.
Yeah, indeed. I read something interesting a couple of days ago. I think it was from David Edney, a sales expert from France. He said something along the lines of, it's about the 21st century sales is about what the customer can't currently do,
yeah,
but if they knew it was possible, the difference that it would make.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also in today's world, because of technology, it's about identifying what we can do that the internet can't do. If we can identify that relationship piece, it will always be valued over and above a procurement deal that the customer might get via the internet, of course.
Yes, indeed. It's ironic in a way. Here we are using technology 20,000 miles away from each other.
Yes.
But it's no matter how good it gets, it's never going to replace being in the room, as a good friend of ours, Nigel Risner, would say.
Absolutely right. I think technology is having a huge impact on how companies identify and win business, but I think the relationship management piece will always be important when we look at retaining customers and developing them. My next tip, Ian, would be to treat key account management as a team sport. It's not a job for one salesperson who wants to be a commercial hero. It is a job for the team. The account manager is in there, the account manager's boss, probably one or two people on the technical side or the commercial side. And it really does start internally. There is that lovely saying, of course, quality of service the customer receives is influenced by the quality of service we give each other.
Yes, indeed.
And that's very much your expertise, of course, getting those internal teams to work properly and to get the big guns within the organisation, i.e. the senior leaders, to get them out in the field, leading the troops, so to speak, not trying to control operations from the barracks.
Yes, indeed. If only there was more of that in the world today. Well, you and I would probably be both out of a job if that was the case.
Yes, absolutely. So treating key account management as a team sport is a key element for me. And the last tip for today I would share is to build key account plans for each of those key relationships. And in the key account plan, you'd really want to see three things. It should answer the question, what's the current situation within this key account?
Yes.
So that, of course, is all about where are we strong, where are we weak, what are the opportunities and the threats, and so on. The second key question an account plan should ask is, what are our plans for the future? Yes. And you'd really want to see three things happening there. First of all, where are we planning to add value to the customer? Where are we planning to improve our business? And where are we planning to develop relationships between our two organizations? And the third key element of a good key account plan is that implementation calendar that simply answers the question, who in the next 12 months or so is now going to do what by when? And that's not just what's the account manager planning to do, but once again, it's the team, it's the boss, it's the technical person, it's the customer service department, and so on, all mapped out over a 6 or 9 or 12-month period of time, because I believe key account management is a long-term strategy. It's not a quick fix that's going to put something on the bottom line in February or March. It's very much a long-term strategy designed to reposition the business. So those would be some of my quick tips for today.
Well, look, I think that's fantastic. Now, just so I can we can tell my friends here, because I'll be putting this up on my website and letting my clients know, what's the kind of thing that you would do? Because you wouldn't be able to do a lot of work when you come to Australia, because you're coming in part for you and your lovely wife to enjoy a holiday, but you do want to you do want to do some work. So what's the kind of thing that you'd be looking to do?
Well, what I tend to do, Ian, is a starter workshop or seminar or speaker session that has the title Top 10 Tips for Your Top 10 Customers. And by covering those top 10 tips, it's basically a health check. So it allows a client to understand where they are today on those 10 tips, and it will give them a great insight into best practice, but it will also show them the gap on where they are and what now needs to happen. So I can't achieve everything in 2 hours or 3 hours, of course, but I can get people moving in the right direction and I can give them a very good insight into the current situation and what now needs to be managed going forward. Ongoing support, of course, thereafter via the usual web links and phone calls and what have you. But that health check normally gets a very, very good response and gets people moving in the right direction.
Well, fantastic. Well, Phil, thank you so much for your time, and it's just been an absolute reservoir of wonderful information for people who need this strategy, and I think that's pretty much every business, regardless of the size. So,
sure.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you, Ian, either in this country or yours at some point in the future. It's been great talking to you.
Very much look forward to it. All the very best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.